Thank you, Ria, and good morning to you. It's a beautiful Thursday morning here in the FCT, and we have our bags loaded for you this morning.
Beautiful Thursday morning, and what a way to be alive. And no matter what you're going through, just know that today has so much in stock for you. Just align your thoughts, and everything will align positively for you. TJ, let's go into what we have for our viewers today.
All right. Good morning and welcome to FCT Brief. Today, our spotlight is on Nigeria's defense and security framework as President Bola Tinubu appoints new service chiefs to lead the nation's armed forces. The move has stirred fresh conversations about strategy, leadership, and the broader architecture of Nigeria's internal and external security. The change in command comes at a time when the country continues to battle insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and other violent crimes that have stretched the military's capacity and public patience. Many Nigerians are now asking whether this new team will bring innovative strategies, improved coordination, and renewed discipline to the nation's security.
However, some are saying that beyond appointments, what Nigeria needs is a comprehensive review of its security architecture, one that emphasizes intelligence gathering, interagency collaboration, and modern technology-driven warfare. The challenge for the new service chiefs will be to translate renewed hope into measurable progress on the ground. With the military under pressure to deliver quick results, expectations are high. Can this new leadership recalibrate Nigeria's security system, boost troop morale, and restore citizens' confidence in the fight against terror and criminality? The coming months will be crucial in determining whether these appointments mark a turning point or a repeat of old patterns. Now, joining us to break down the implications and evaluate the prospects is Brigadier General Sani Usman, retired former Army spokesman. He will be joining us in the course of this very program. Now, TJ,
yes.
The Senate confirmed the president's appointment, and the job is cut out for this man.
Indeed. Well, I was in the chamber yesterday, and, they had so much enthusiasm, and, also the lawmakers had a lot of belief in them because of their track record and, the history, their history in warfare and all of that. But one issue they seem to mention, and which is not new, is that security is quite expensive. Even the chief of air staff mentioned that a missile alone costs about $100,000, and that has to be fired every day. I wonder how we are sustaining that, and I didn't know that it was that quite expensive, but it was just quite an eye-opener yesterday, and I just really hope that, from their presentation yesterday and the confidence that was being put in them, they are able to put the security architecture in good shape, because security is really, really a serious business. And as the way the country is going, we can all see how security has deteriorated. So we need a fast and tactic approach to tackle the security situation in the country.
I quite agree with them. The security is expensive, but when we also take it side by side, the value of the human life, you will understand the value of the human life also is huge. That no matter what we spend to ensure that you and I can sleep, wake up, go about our businesses without fear, it will be worth the while.
And I also heard when the defense chief also mentioned that, more responsibility should be put on the police, because,
I like that.
Yes, because, they are underutilized, and some of the responsibilities that they are meant to take care of, they are still taking care of them.
Which means
so
as we
empower
are,
the police force.
Exactly. As we are investing in our military, we must deliberately invest massively in the police, so that not just about decentralizing the command structure, we must massively invest, get them the appropriate equipment, so that our police also can live up to the present challenge that we do have.
Well, for proper context, I did a report on that yesterday, so let's see that report. The screening of the newly appointed service chiefs began with the formal suspension of the Senate's rules to admit the nominees and their guests into the chamber. Led into the chamber by the Sergeant at Arms and accompanied by the Special Advisor to the President on National Assembly matters. The service chiefs took turns to introduce themselves and present their credentials. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, who was previously screened for the position of Chief of Army Staff, was the first to take the stand. He emphasized that security should not be left to the armed forces alone, calling for collective responsibility in safeguarding the nation.
There's something special in being a soldier, because as a soldier, what it entails is that you have sacrificed your entire life for others to live. And for you to be a soldier, there's some element of madness. What do I mean by this? For a right-thinking fellow, when there is danger, you are expected to retreat. But for a soldier, you are expected to go forward and face that challenge.
Having already undergone earlier confirmation, senators asked him to take a bow without further questioning. Other nominees, including Chief of Army Staff, highlighted the cost of national security, but assured lawmakers of prudent resource management and improved combat readiness of the troops.
I intend to improve troops' welfare generally, to enhance the living and working conditions of our troops, encouraging financial support, and assuring quality access to both health care and education.
The radicalization of repentant criminals will be looked into and tweaked.
The armed forces is that part of government which you must spend money and hope not to use. If you do not have it, you are a chicken waiting for the hawk to be carried.
After a 4-hour screening process, the Senate confirmed the nominees as Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs, expressing confidence in their capacity to tackle Nigeria's complex security challenges.
On the whole, we believe that this will renew the hope of Nigerians in respect of restoring security to our nation. Though security is everybody's business, but we found them fit and very capable, almost all of them emerging from the theaters of war.
With the Senate's confirmation of the new service chiefs, expectations are high that Nigeria's security architecture will witness renewed professionalism and results. Tijesu Adeoye, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, will I say a beautiful report there?
Beautiful, and a beautiful ending there.
Well,
TJ, whether on set or on the field, you stand out all the time.
Well, thank you very much for the compliment. But from yesterday, another issue that was raised by the lawmakers was the de-radicalization of, these insurgents. Some of them,
those criminals.
Yes, when they commit such crimes, they come back and they are granted pardon and then they are released into the society to mingle. And I think the lawmakers quite found a bit of or two things wrong with that, because these are people that have maimed people, they have killed people. So just releasing them like that, I don't know. How does that sit with you?
There is no pardon that is done in secret. If they committed a crime against the nation, you can't just say you pardon them secretly. If there's a pardon, it must be a public stuff so that people will know. Now, if it is de-radicalization, you must be careful so that you don't kill the morale of the fighting men, because they were involved. Some of their colleagues were killed. And now the same people who killed their colleagues, you now see you're de-radicalizing them, integrating them. Probably they will even meet them in the course of interaction, which kind of weaken their morale. Look at the pardon list that the president had to revisit a particular person that was exactly. So let's be careful about this de-radicalization. They're criminal. I like the way the chief of naval staff said that those criminals, if they are criminals, they should be treated as criminals and not as innocent Nigerians. They've committed a crime against humanity and against the state.
And I like one point you raised where the feelings of these officers on the battlefield have to be considered, because that's what the chief of defense staff said. You have to be a mad person to go, you see danger and go and face it. These are the people that are always on the battlefield, defending the nation, putting their lives at risk. I think their feelings
and everything that has to do with them should be prioritized. Exactly. Nothing should be taken for granted.
I think there should be the reworking of how we treat our military men, indeed, whether they're fighting or they've left the field, how the society treats them. That's why I quite like what I think the Minister of Aviation said, that they will be given priority treatment. And we must evolve a culture. Yeah, we expect that they should also deal with civilians very well, with much respect, but we also must evolve a culture where we respect what they are doing, so that it can also boost their morale. Because the chief of defense staff said, while others are expected to retreat, that the military man goes forward. And I said, even that's the same thing. The journalist, you hear of a bomb scare somewhere, and everybody is running away. The journalist is running there, running there to get the story. And I think this caliber of people should be respected by the society. That apart from getting the necessary equipment to equip them with, by the time you put those things in place and you boost their morale, it will help and encourage them, because they know that the society they are fighting for, the nation they are fighting for, respect them.
Well, quite a good point to raise there. I even like the part that you mentioned, the journalists, exactly, because we are always also in the story, and we try to avoid not to be part of the story, but we can't help but do our jobs. We have to tell people what's going on, what's happening. And I think we should also be rated soldiers, because whether or not anyone wants to go there, we have to go there.
You already have a constitutional responsibility. You call the fourth estate of the realm. So it is cut out for you, because whatever they're doing, somebody must report it. And we are the people that report whatever is happening. You can imagine people are at home and they must know what is happening in the battlefield. There's a journalist that brings the stories to them. Some of them are embedded with the fighting men so that they can bring first-hand information. I think the society must begin to appreciate the sacrifices that these people are making. Not just the journalists are fighting men. And like one of them said, the police also. It's not about just equipping our military men. Yeah, we're talking about the security architecture. It's beyond just equipping the military men. The police must be seriously equipped. I remember in those days, we used to have the mobile force. They called them Kill and Go. Yeah, a bad name then, but the reason those names came in, because whenever they go into quelling protests, they show their strength. But our mobile force is not as strong as it used to be. So we must look back at our mobile force, whether it is the anti-terrorism, anti-cultism, and whatever anti-group we have in the mobile force, and seriously equip them with the capacity to intervene. When the military men take over a territory and they're advancing, you need a particular force to contain that place. It's not the military that will contain it, because they keep advancing. So you need an acute mobile force or a police force, so that when the military takes a territory and they're advancing to conquer another territory, you have a capable force that will contain it. And that is why we must also invest in the police to also boost the morale of the police.
Well, quite high expectation of this new service chiefs. I wrote a piece where I said it's not just about new uniforms in new offices. What fresh strategies are they bringing on board? What fresh ideas? We also have the digital battlefield there, where a lot of people are making a lot of comments, and it's putting us in bad light. All this need to be combated. But we'll still come back to this conversation very shortly. Let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Brigadier General Sani Usman, retired, the former army spokesman, will be joining us, and he's right here in the studio. Nice to have you, General.
Good morning, and my sincere apologies. It's unlike me to come to programs late.
That's okay. With the confirmation of the appointees of Mr. President, the job seems cut out for the service chiefs to ensure that Nigeria is secured and will win the war against terror, kidnapping, and banditry. Now, what would you say would need to change so that it will no longer be business as usual for these men?
I would have loved that you define we. Is it those that are appointed, or is it Nigerians?
Nigerians.
Well, you have had it during the screening process at the National Assembly. I think invariably, right from the Chief of Defense Staff down to the Chief of the Air Staff, they crave for the support of the government and the good people of Nigeria. So basically, this is what is needed, because there is a limit to which they can perform their duty without this support.
Okay. On their own part, what strategy will they need to change, to tweak, so that it will not be business as usual?
Yeah, well, I think command is a style, in the sense that each and every one of them is well-versed, well-experienced, well-trained. So they have their own ways of going about it. But the most important thing is that I think the right people have been selected for the right job, have been, gone through the rudiments, especially when you look at some of them, particularly the Chief of Army Staff. Bulk of his career has spent it in the Northeast. More so, he's an armored officer. So automatically, they have a fair idea what they want to do. But the thing is that I cannot precisely say this is what they are going to do and all the rest, because they have, you look at it from the perspective of issues that deal with personnel welfare, the issue of logistics, the issue of equipment, and most importantly, the issue of coordinating with fellow service chiefs and other security agencies, and then, of course, having the support of the Nigerian people, particularly the host communities where these operations are being carried out. Because to a large extent, intelligence is the most important component. Then, of course, it's left for them to, utilize the intelligence STs.
I like the fact that you mentioned collaboration and also intelligence, because there's ongoing scrutiny around the alleged disloyalty within the army and a corresponding shake-up in service leadership. To what extent can these new service chiefs genuinely reset internal discipline, professionalism, and esprit de corps?
Yeah, that is why I talked earlier on about welfare and administration. It's all encompassing. The soldier marches on his or her stomach. So to a large extent, you have to make him or her comfortable to discharge his or her duties creditably well. And what are those things that you need to do? You talked about, the best form of welfare to a soldier first is training. He or she must be well trained, and then you equipped him. Then you create an enabling environment. Every entitlement due to him or her is given as at when due. And remember again, some of them have been at the theaters of the operation for some years, 3, 4 years, some up to 6 years. And within that last 6 years, they have not even had maybe an interrupted 60 days with their families. Now the families tend to take care. They have children. Some of them, they have aged parents and all the rest. So to what extent are the remunerations, but most importantly, what are those infrastructures that are available within the barrack community for those families to be able to fund the educational system, the other things, as it were. And you remember, even accommodation is a problem, right? Even in Abuja and elsewhere too. So these are the issues that you really have to create an enabling environment. I know that the money is not there, and I'm so glad all the 4 of them, they all talked about the National Assembly, and I overheard one of the members of the National Assembly was saying that any time the military look for, funds, they have always been given. And I like what the Chief of Air Staff said: the security does not come cheap. So these are the things that we have to look at it first and foremost, and that is where the Nigerian state, the Nigerian people come into play, and the government come into play, given the existential threat we are facing. So we need to really fund the military, and it is not just enough to fund them so that they can meet up with those expectations, but to make sure there is a follow-up. If you say this allocation is for XYZ expenditure, to what extent has it been effectively utilized? So monitoring and evaluation is very, very important, and that is where the National Assembly comes into play because of the oversight function. But most importantly is the fact that when you are dealing with security challenges of this nature, you have to understand that it is both issue of kinetic and non-kinetic. The military or the security agencies use coercion and all the rest of them. But what are other things? Because some of the security challenges, you cannot use the military to address the root causes. So at the same time, so much as the military are doing that, the other components of Nigerian society, particularly the government, to see how best they can mitigate to further complement the military efforts.
Okay. Winning the war against terror, a lot of people have said, has to do with a combination of a lot of factors. There are tactical decisions, which is purely military decision, and also there are also political considerations.
Also operational.
Operational. That is also the responsibility. That is purely a military decision. Now, You've been at the forefront, now you're retired. Now, looking at it from outside, how best can they align political consideration with purely military tactics so that both are brought to play? Because whether you're a politician, whether you're a military man, the common objective is that we must win this war. So how do we align these two factors so that none put us down? Because the other time, one of them was saying de-radicalization, and that was, I guess that might be a political consideration. Now, how do you align all these factors together so that at the end of the day, we must just win this war?
And that is the beauty of democracy. One thing I want you to understand is the fact that the military had been subjected to transformation program for 15 solid years, right from 2000 up to 2015. And I think the program is still ongoing, not in the scale as it were. And some of the aspects, particularly the most important thing, is the nuances of subjecting the military to democratic governance. Now, the relationship between the military and the civilian leadership, that has been clearly defined by constitutional provisions, and everybody knows. Now, the bottom line is, it is not just the military, but even the political class ought to have understood the fact that, politicization of security issues does no one any good. So we are supposed to galvanize the Nigerian society so that everybody will be on the same page. There are certain things that basically they are supposed to be no-go area. When you talk about national security, everybody is supposed to be on the same page so that the military can be allowed, or the security forces, to discharge their duties dispassionately. So, and then that is where the components of Nigerian society come into play. What is our criminal justice system? What are the supporting institutions that the military can do this much, then the other ones can? Take, for instance, I made reference, even the insurgency as to where wouldn't have reached the way we are, the present state we are in, simply because if you look back, way back 2009, when the military were called in when there was this uprising in Maiduguri, they did a marvelous job to the extent of arresting the kingpin. But what happened? The criminal justice system or other component of the Nigerian society, were not there, so to speak. It resulted in the extrajudicial killing of Mohammed Yusuf, and of course the whip of sentiment and sympathy, and here we are. Yeah. So supposing that the system worked, support the military, they came in, did what they did, arrest whoever they wanted to arrest, who found culpable, hand over, the judicial system will take, and then other components will further investigate, see how best, to what extent they have been involved, and all the rest of the thing. But unfortunately, some of the institutions are very weak, and we need to strengthen them. Take, for instance, our policing system, and I'm so happy, even the Chief of Defense Staff made reference to this issue. We are just begging the issue. To what extent have we, invested in our policing system to meet up with the 21st century crime? Take an average police officer. To what extent have you trained him, equipped him, or her, as the case may be, or them even, to meet up with the challenges of the 21st century? Look at it, within the last 26 years, we kept on having policy somersault, and there are also legal impediments. And sometimes you just even have to go back to the Constitution. Take, for instance, if you are talking about, I'm so happy that he was talking about security sector reform, rejigging the police. But how do you rejig them? When first you have the police headquarters, headed by the Inspector General of Police, then you have the Police Service Commission, then you have Ministry for Police Affairs. Now you have the Inspector General of Police that cannot deploy a Commissioner of Police unless the Police Service Commission has said so. And you cannot promote him. So in case if there are acts of indiscipline and all the rest. Now take, for instance, it's just like you sitting in Abuja and you are the one who will give the Chief of Army Staff this, that, and of course he knows, and I know, that the person is indisciplined or is unfit, and yet you give him. So how can he transform him into something? So these are some of the things that we are talking about. So a lot need to be done. But most importantly, I think the issue of our policing system has to be revisited. In fact, it is the neglect of the policing system that brought us to where we are. And unless we do so, you know, there is limit to which the military and other security forces are doing. And I can rest assure you, it is possible because, look, Nigerians are just marvelous people. And you know the staying power of the Nigerian state, it is not the abundant mineral resources. No, it is the human resources, you and I. So by the time you channel them accordingly and empower them, and again, even the average Nigerian, you have to educate him or educate her in the sense that they should understand that they have a role to play. Everybody should be given sense of belonging. And of course, when we are talking about that, you have to look at all the variables, the economic factor, the political climate, and the social cohesion of Nigerian society. And that is where the components of Nigerian society come into play. Now, we have a youth bulge in this country. Almost 67% of the total population, 200 million plus, are youth. To what extent have you integrated them into governance, into socio-economic activities in this country so that, you know, and unfortunately, bulk of the criminal activities are, you know, performed by the youth, and they did not come from the sky.
No, I really like all these issues that you've touched, but one other very strategic and major issue is that Nigeria still struggles with timely procurement of military hardware. And I was just telling my colleague that yesterday the chief of air staff mentioned that to purchase one missile is $100,000, and that has to be fired.
Yeah, he asks you to do the mathematics, in the current exchange rate.
Now, we have the Defense Industry Corporation of Nigeria. Why hasn't that been functional? Why do we still heavily depend on purchasing, equipment, foreign purchase, procurement rather? Why do we heavily depend on that?
Well, I think it's just, first and foremost, you know the answer to this question, but the most important thing and the good thing is that the Defense Industry Corporation, based in Kaduna, that I know, that I think in a couple of weeks I was also there, is being repositioned. And the gentleman that is there now, based on what I saw and the brief I received, within question of time, because of this issue of private-public partnership, they have gone into, now a lot of investors are coming into this country, and in no time, beyond what they are doing now, you will see. And the military, the much needed military-industrial complex will come into play. But most importantly, I want you to understand, there is no country in the world that develops without steel industry. So you have to have supporting components. And in fact, the good thing is that they have one other industry in Lagos or thereabout is being resuscitated, and it will be churning out billions of naira in no distant time. So it is not just about the past, but the most important thing is what is being done now. And I don't know. It is not just the industry, but even look at our clothing and other things that we do use on a daily basis. To a large extent, they seems to be imported. And unless we look inward, and we have the capacity to do it, so that those other aspects, we can develop the skill and the capacity to do these things.
Yeah. I like what you said about the need to reform the police, and I think this is a huge challenge to the government of the day and to the National Assembly that confirmed these people that look, you need to go back to rework this the police so that the police can be very effective. Now, before that might take a lot of process before we can do that. What do you think can be the immediate decision that this service chief should take now that they should hit the ground running?
Well, you are talking about police, you are talking about service chiefs.
Now,
let me tell you, yes, the immediate thing, I consult at the Nigerian Army Resource Center. It's more or less a think tank for the Nigerian Army. Okay. Now, recently we heard, about a couple of years back, we made a suggestion that, look, where have been the mobile policemen? Mobile police force. Where is it? Now, we suggested that, look, they should be mopped up, withdrawn from these VIPs and all the rest. Let's have like 40, 50,000 of them, train them, and take at least 2,000 to each of the states or thereabout. And in case if there are complex situations, we have a layer that can just roll before you think of the military. It has not seen the light of the day. But I think most importantly, the thing is that they, just like you said at the opening, that they have their just cut off because they have been part and parcel of the system. And one good thing you should know is that there is no way you can rise to the rank of a colonel or equivalent in the armed forces that they don't even know you by name or by reputation. Right. So they know their capacity, so they know their onions, and most importantly, command is a style. I think we should wish them well. So much as we thank their predecessors for a marvelous job that they have done, they should build on what has been done and consolidate on that and improve on it. And I'm so confident they will do so.
Thank you so much. Brigadier General Sani Usman, it's a pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thank you so much for your time on the program. I must say you gave us quite a robust contribution this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
That's why we'll leave our